Welcome to KSOK Uncensored. Tonight's guest is Larry Ward. That name may be familiar to you because he was a guest on KSOK Uncensored back in September. But lots has happened in these 2 months since Larry has been on, and I couldn't wait to have him back on. Let's go ahead and bring Larry in. Larry, I wanted to share with you, one, thank you so much for coming back on KSOK Uncensored. Your episode with me back on September 1st was the most viewed episode of my show to date. So people
Oh,
really liked what you had to say.
that's awesome. That's awesome. It
Yeah.
was a great interview, and I appreciate you having me back.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't wait to have you back on. And I rarely do duplicates. So thank you so much for agreeing to it. So let's just unpack this. Obviously, I think you have an idea of where I want to go today. But for people watching that were not around for the September 1st interview, Larry is the president of the Constitutional Rights PAC. And one of their projects is the We Want Don Ron PAC. It's wewantdonron.com.
Yep.
And obviously, we're talking about Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis. Let's just look back, though, over the past few weeks. So much happening between those two. And I couldn't agree with what your objective is more, to be honest. Right now, I feel like there's division being created between the two. We need them to come together and make this happen. But what do you think is going on between those two gentlemen?
Well, here's the thing. Look, Ron DeSantis obviously took a little bit of the spotlight from Donald Trump on Election Day. Donald Trump didn't like that. He saw it coming. He used the sanctimonious thing. I personally think Donald Trump, our president, the greatest president in our lifetime. And I love Ronald Reagan, but Donald Trump did a better job in 4 years, in my opinion.
Right.
But he had a strategy in 2016 to nickname his opponents, to beat up on rhinos, and quite frankly, the one rhino, he's not a rhino, the one conservative that he beat up on was Ted Cruz. And he did such a masterful job in terms of taking Ted Cruz, who was my candidate in 2016. He was the guy I was supporting. And really I supported him because he's the outsider. He was the guy who was the outsider in the campaign. He was the guy who was the Mr. Smith goes to Washington. He had those filibusters. He had the big stands on Obamacare. He was the guy that was going to upset the apple cart. And Donald Trump, what he did was turn him into the insider. That's what he did. Donald Trump turned Ted Cruz into the insider. And he turned, his base against him. And what and quite frankly, he didn't do the same thing to Rand. Rand didn't put up too much. I love Rand, but he didn't put too much of a fight in that campaign. He would have been my first choice. But he didn't beat up on Rand, and Rand and him have a pretty good relationship. Rand calls him out when he needs to, but does it respectfully. Donald Trump calls Rand out whenever he feels like it and does it respectfully, and they have a good relationship. And even Cruz, after the election, he and Cruz got together, and Cruz has been on Team Trump from the day he was inaugurated, and even when he got the nomination. And I think Trump's decided that, hey, I'm going to run the same strategy that won in 2016, and I'm going to run it against Ron DeSantis and Glenn Youngkin. And I don't think he was prepared for the backlash from his base. And
Right.
there was a good amount. I mean, I'm running the We Want Don Ron campaign. We're sending emails. I'm getting replies. I'm seeing your replies of folks who say, look, we want Don and Ron. We want them together. But what is Don doing trying to take on Ron DeSantis? And what I saw yesterday is kind of what I expected. I expected Don to take a couple shots. I expected Ron to absorb them just like he did. Like a real professional, say, look, it's part of being, the governor. It's part of the job. You wake up in the morning, you get attacked, so what? And neither of them have a thin skin, so that's really important. And Donald Trump, when he announced, he did it the right way. Now, I would have preferred he do it with Ron DeSantis standing behind him, but we still have a lot
Yeah.
of time for that. And he did it the right way. And what Donald Trump did was he focused on the successes in his campaign, the failures of the last 2 years with Joe Biden, and how we can make America great again. He focused on who Donald Trump is and his incredible presidency. And that is exactly what he has to do in order not only to bring the party together, but to win the presidency. And it's not going to be hard. Look, Donald Trump is the guy that called out China. Donald Trump is the guy that lowered our taxes. Donald is the guy that got rid of ISIS. You know, it's spelled is. He turned it into was. You know, and Donald Trump is the guy who you know, made America great, made America safe. All of the things that he says in his rallies, he did it. And we just need to be reminded of that. He just needs to keep focused on what he did, his accomplishments as president, his accomplishments in business for his whole entire life, and what he can do for America in 2024. If he focuses on that, it doesn't matter who else is running. No one else is even going to come close.
Right. It makes me nervous that he loses support. I'm watching it on my Instagram, my Facebook. I've been putting polls out there, polling my viewers, my subscribers, and people are not happy with what he's doing. And it makes me concerned that all of these great achievements are being watered down every time he attacks somebody that the United States we love. There's a reason there's the saying, "Make America Florida." We love DeSantis and what he's about. And it's disappointing for a lot of folks to hear the things that they're hearing. And the concern is that there's going to be more division versus the unity within the party that we really need. Do you feel that these quote unquote attacks on also Youngkin, people love Youngkin, saying that name sounds Chinese. I mean, come on. Is that necessary? I see the strategy, but do you feel like he's hurting himself?
It's his 2016 strategy, and I think Donald Trump is smart enough. He is capable enough. He understands that it's not working, and he's going to change strategy. And that's all there is to it. I mean, he's not going to change who he is. He's just going to change strategy and tactics. And he's going to, because he's not going to win. If he bludgeons DeSantis, he's going to turn off his base, which the only person who could separate Donald Trump's base from Donald Trump is Donald Trump.
Right.
Nobody else could do it. Ron DeSantis can't do it. Glenn Youngkin can't do it. Mitch McConnell can't do it. The only person to put a wedge between Donald Trump and his base is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump knows that. He knows it. And he's going to back off. That's why I think it was very, very encouraging, the tone he took, you know, during the announcement.
Yes, I was very impressed with that, actually. I was waiting. I'm like, all right, what's coming? Who's he going to talk smack about now? And no, he had a really good tone. His demeanor was calm, which people are looking for that sense of calmness right now, actually, as well. So he did all the right things. So I hope you're right. I saw that last night. I feel like he is pivoting, put something out there. People are, we've been through a lot in the last 6 years. And people are ready for a different approach. And so I'm glad that he did pivot away from that attack mentality. Okay, so I get that. I think you're right. And I also agree that we need both of them on the ticket. So I know that the objective is not only 4 years, 8 years, we want 12 years. Can you break that down for folks?
Absolutely. We need Donald Trump from 2024 to 2028, and we need Ron DeSantis for 8 years. And what Ron DeSantis can do in those 4 years as vice president, people say, well, why would Ron DeSantis want to be vice president? It's a do-nothing job. He could do more good as governor. Well, yeah, he can do more good as governor if he was a normal vice president. He's not going to be a normal vice president. Ron DeSantis is going to be the vice president in charge of personnel. And yes, this is me willing it. And believe me, this would be the absolute best case scenario for the country. Is Ron DeSantis goes into the federal government with one job in 4 years: dismantle the deep state, fire everybody. Anyone you can't fire, make them clean the streets, make them clean toilets. Make them do the dirtiest jobs possible so they quit. You make their life a living hell so they get out of government, right? You get them, you take this deep state and you completely dismantle it, and you replace only those positions that must be replaced. You replace them with America First patriots. And then after 4 years of doing this, you get the opportunity to come in as president and hit the ground running in a way that no conservative president has ever been able to do. Think of all of the hell that Trump went through for 4 years because the deep state was so embedded. We need 4 years of Donald Trump as president and Ron DeSantis just working in the background, cleaning up the deep state, and nobody can do a better job.
Enema. We need an enema.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the only way you get the crap out. That's right. So we absolutely need that. And Ron DeSantis has proven he did this in Florida. He cleaned out the bureaucracy. He just fired a state attorney because he wasn't upholding the law. Ron DeSantis has the ability. He knows he has to do it. And as vice president, he will clean up the government.
I believe it. I see him doing that in Florida. I believe he can absolutely do that as vice and then move on to be an incredibly powerful president. Let's talk about who we have putting feelers out there for running in 24 also. Pence. Talk about a mealy mouth, linguini spine. That's what I think of when I think of Pence, but he won over a lot of those conservatives that just really want someone who's nice. And so I'm curious, are people going to fall for it?
No, they're not. Particularly Trump's base. I'm not going to say there's anything unforgivable. As a Christian, I believe we got to forgive. Forgive Mike Pence for betraying the country. Forgive Mike Pence for stabbing us in the back and not having a spine. I forgive Mike Pence for all of these things, but I'll never vote for him. Never.
Right.
Because look, if he stood up on January 6th, and all he had to do was rely on the Constitution, which does give him the power. Look, the founding fathers meticulously put together our government with a series of checks and balances. They did not have any ceremonial. They came from a royal system that they despised. They did not have any pomp and circumstance written into the Constitution. It was no ceremonial position where the vice president just gets to read. He is there as the last defense. That was the position. There is precedent. There's historical evidence that is exactly what the founders intended. And to say that was an inappropriate strategy, well, if it wasn't a constitutional strategy, then why were the Democrats so anxious to get that loophole closed and codify that in law? If January 6th couldn't have happened the way we said it was going to happen when we had people show up at the White House, then why were the Democrats so quick and easy to say, oh, we have to make sure that this never happens again? Well, what do you mean? I thought it couldn't happen, right? It could,
exactly.
And it absolutely should have. And Mike Pence knew better, and Mike Pence decided he wanted the black tie circuit over doing the right thing for the country.
Yeah, speaking of that, I still remember, and who knows, people say it's Photoshop, but I'm pretty sure I saw him shake hands with Nancy Pelosi and receive some type of coin after he betrayed the entire country. So,
I believe Judas received some coins too.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And people call us conspiracy theorists, but I saw that on video. And
Yep.
yeah, so well, good. I hope the rest of the country feels the same way. I know my base does. They want nothing to do with Pence. Even my mom, who is definitely so my mom, my mother-in-law, they're conservative, but they don't like how aggressive Trump is, you know. So they really like DeSantis. Even they're not falling for the Pence thing. So that's a good sign that he's not going to have any movement, really, with the conservative party as a whole. It's going to be
Absolutely. And Pompeo's going to run. Asa Hutchinson's talking about running. These are nobodies. These are, Mike Pence, Pompeo. He was all right as State Department chair. I mean, I wasn't thrilled to have about Mike Pompeo. He's a little he still reminds me a little bit of the Bush era
yeah,
Republican, and it just rubs me the wrong way. I don't think he's going to get any traction. The only conservative that can challenge Donald Trump is Ron DeSantis, and hopefully
right.
they don't challenge. Hopefully they work together.
Yes, I'm seeing super PACs pop up for DeSantis just in the last couple days. And so my question to you would be, how do we make sure that people really are holistically thinking about this and focus more on your PAC to join the two together versus jump on board this DeSantis PAC?
Yeah, people are going to do what they're going to do. I mean, there's a Ready for Ron PAC. A friend of mine is running that. He believes that the country's ready for Ron. I think the country's ready for Ron too. But I think with Donald Trump in the mix and Donald Trump getting screwed out of the 2020 election, it's his to run again. And quite frankly, Ron DeSantis is a young man, a strong young man who's going to have an opportunity in 2028. I'm not one of those guys that say wait in line. But these two guys pounding on each other is bad for the country. It's bad for the party. It's bad for the movement. And the one thing we can't afford is to have them knock each other out and have Joe Biden or Joe Biden Jr. and Gavin Newsom or
Ugh.
Kamala Harris be president.
Right. Newsom. Oh my gosh, he is a freaky dude. And I'm over here in Portland, Oregon, so he heavily influences what our governor does. And I don't know if you saw recently, we had for the first time in almost 40 years, we had a Republican nominee very close to the gubernatorial win. She conceded with only 85% of the votes in, so that mathematically didn't make sense to me, especially with the margin being so small. Makes me kind of wonder. But that said, we have a new, very leftist governor who will be, coming in January, and they're very influenced by Gavin Newsom. That man is evil, and so I've heard of him having meetings at the White House. Do you think he's an absolute for running in 24?
I don't know if he's an absolute. I think he's a kind of slimy guy that will push or nudge Kamala Harris out and take the VP role and then accidentally push Biden down the stairs. That's the kind of guy I think Gavin Newsom is. Quite frankly, I think Newsom is super ambitious. He wants to be president more than anything else, and he wants to. If you like Justin Trudeau, vote for Gavin Newsom. They're the same person.
Oh, yes. Disgusting. Yeah, he does look. He looks like the Joker. And it wouldn't be that tough to push Biden down the stairs. I mean, that man's a mess. Michelle Obama was asked the other day by, I don't know, one of Oprah's, her girlfriend, friend, whatever. But she was asked about Biden running in 24, and she took a long pause before she responded. She clearly had to think that one through. And she said that's up to his family. So what are your thoughts on how that's going to go for Biden in 24? I mean, he's clearly delirious.
That was super deliberate. Michelle Obama is media savvy, if anything else. And she knew by pausing and by hemming and hawing, she knew she was going to get that question. She had to be prepared for it. That was a very intentional pause. and it tells me that she has some presidential ambitions of her own.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that would be concerning because of the popularity that she has, even amongst some conservative folks, at least back in the day. Who knows? Hopefully they've waken up by now. But want to pivot a bit to the midterms and ask what your opinion is on, really, it wasn't the red wave we were hoping for. Maybe a red trickle, I don't know, but some of the Trump first candidates did not perform very well, and I know he's taken a hit for that. What are your thoughts
Well,
on how that
I'm
played?
gonna give you my perspective here, and we had Trump said 5 million. I think it was more like 6.5 million more votes than the Democrats in the popular vote. The last time we had a vote differential like that was 2010, and in 2010 we won 63 seats. What was the difference? Well, if you look at a state like Florida and Ohio that have voter integrity measures baked into the law, especially Florida has has the model of how to run an election. Florida is. We saw the red wave, and where didn't we see the red wave? In Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada. Well, why didn't we see the red wave there? The same reason why Donald Trump lost those races, because they kept counting, and they kept counting, and they kept counting until until the Democrat wins. That's really the situation. Arizona, we had, in my opinion, the perfect gubernatorial candidate. Kari Lake was. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I've worked with tons of candidates. I have never seen a candidate as perfect as Kari Lake. Absolute strength, dominance, confidence, intelligence, just comes across professional, like she knows what she's doing. She's a leader. She answers every single question and holds the media accountable. It was a textbook campaign. And the woman who sat in the basement, who did nothing, beat her.
Right.
When they had to, the woman who's in charge of the elections beat her. Now that makes more sense, right? She's in charge of the elections. She goes and has people mess with the machines on election day because they know Republicans are voting on election day. Turn down all those voters, and all of a sudden they run up the score. It doesn't feel right. Not in Arizona. It doesn't feel right in Nevada. Yeah, we won the governorship in Nevada, but that's not what they cared about. They cared about the Senate seat. Laxalt was way ahead. They cared about the Secretary of State race. They want to maintain control of the elections. So, and I know there are a lot of Republicans running away from the idea that we can't talk about election fraud because they're going to call us election deniers. And I say this: anytime someone calls you an election denier, look them straight in the face and call them an election fraud denier, because that's the truth. They're election fraud deniers, right? We're climate deniers. We're this denier. We're election deniers. No. You're an election fraud denier. You're denying that election fraud occurred, even when guys like Barack Obama said election fraud is pretty common. And the State Department for Obama's administration put out a white paper, and they said, you have telltale signs. 6 telltale signs that an election is fraudulent. The very first one is when they stop counting on election day.
Right. And that's, oh my goodness.
And where do we lose seats?
That. Right.
And where do we lose seats? In all the states that had the election month, the election week, the drop boxes, the ballot harvesting. That's where we lost. And yes, we got to get better at ballot harvesting. The problem is Republicans don't like cheating. And the problem is, if you're thinking about ballot harvesting, and you better do it by the book, you better have witnesses, because the Democrats will prosecute you where they're not going to prosecute their own.
Can you break down what legal ballot harvesting is? 'Cause a lot of people don't understand.
Legal and moral are two different things. So let's just be clear there. Legal ballot
Okay.
harvesting is when somebody goes to the door to door. They go to a lot of times it goes to like nursing homes or old senior centers, and they collect seniors ballots the day they drop. They can track them. You can actually track when the ballots are being delivered. They know that ballot's delivered to that house on that day. And they will be there the moment that ballot is delivered, knock on the door, say, can I have your ballot? And then it gets into the hands of an activist, a paid activist mostly, someone who's paid to collect these things, incentivized to collect these things, incentivized to maybe look at it and say, this one's no good. Psh, this one's good.
Right.
And stuff the ballots, stuff the ballot boxes. I mean, look, it is just what it is. That's what ballot harvesting is, and it destroys the chain of custody of the whole ballot process. You're supposed to get a ballot when you go to election day, fill it out, stick it in the machine on a paper ballot, and you get one of them. And the person at the desk checks your ID, make sure you're on the list, make sure you're voting in the right precinct, and puts it in the machine, and you're done. That's a secure way of hosting an election. Right. The way they're doing it now is they're mailing these things out, and an activist, a paid activist, is coming and collecting it, and who knows what happens after that? There's no accountability, and who's going to arrest them for it? Merrick Garland?
Yeah. No, there's no accountability.
There's no accountability. There's no accountability. And you bring it to court, and the courts go, oh, this isn't our jurisdiction. We can't do anything about it.
Right, exactly. Well, I may have shared with you back in September, I was a campaign manager for someone running here locally, and we're still here. We are a week and a day later, and we are still watching votes come in. And it's a very, very tight race. So it's very frustrating, and that they stop counting. They put this is Washington State, one ballot dump or one count came through on election day. That's it. So they've been just doing one dump a day for the last 8 days. And so we have to keep waiting and waiting. And it feels incredibly intentional. And now in this county, there are 7,500 ballots. And this is the same county that Joe Kent is in. 7,500 ballots that got rejected. They're saying the signatures didn't match. So a lot of those were on game day votes. Oh, how convenient is that? So it's a complete mess. I was out driving around in rural parts of Washington State, trying to collect affidavits on Monday. So it's one of those things where we are working till we're doing everything we can, but it feels like we're fighting an uphill battle.
We absolutely are. And look, the only way around it is to get power. And we have to win. And the good news is we have a real opportunity to take over the Senate, to win some more House seats in 2024, and to win the presidency. And then we can have some real strong efforts. And they've got to be led by the states, but real strong efforts to crack down on election fraud, to get a real investigation. Remember, Bill Barr said that he was going to investigate 2020. He sent 2 agents out. He said they're going to look into it. 48 hours later, he comes back and says, "Oh, they didn't find anything."
Right.
What? 48 hours. You looked through all of the different states that we had questions in. You looked at all the cases. You looked at two people had the opportunity to do so, and they found nothing. It took Arizona months to run an audit, to run an audit. And they found the fraud, which would have flipped the election.
Right.
They
Bill
found
just wanted to
it's in the report.
His bagpipes. He just wanted to play his bagpipes. He was done.
It's just out of control. The justice system. It's the just us system. It's not the justice system. And even when we're in charge, we're not in charge of it. So that's why we need to completely burn the place down. Literally, figuratively, just completely annihilate everybody in that building. Just fire everybody. Just get rid of the entire building. make people reapply. And if they have anything political, right, left, anything political, keep them out.
Right. Right. I completely agree. All right, Larry, it's been an absolute pleasure. We are on time right now. Go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
ConstitutionalRightsPact.com. If you want to sign the petition for Don Ron, you just go to WeWantDonRon.com. WeWantDonRon.com.
Appreciate you coming on. Always so much to say. Like I said, you were the most popular episode that I've had in 2 years. So thank you so much for everything you do. You are a voice people listen to, so keep it up.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a great evening. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. I just love that guy. He's just a wealth of knowledge. Check out his pack because I really feel we need those two now more than ever. We can't have them butting heads. We need them working together. And we need to sign that petition telling them that that is what we want. We, the people, we want them on the same ticket. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you next Thursday on KSOK Uncensored.